This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey everybody, welcome back! It's Party Loaded. It is Tuesday, the 13th of March. We're here to chat a whole bunch of video games, talk about what's hot, what's not, and what we've been playing in the world of the games. So to do that tonight, I'd like to introduce my partners in pastime. We have Jam, we have Christian. Hello you two, what's going on?
Yo.
Hello, I'm here, it's me. How are you?
In case anybody forgot. That's
and
right.
how are you at home, dear listener, more importantly? I hope you're doing well.
In fact, you should call in right now on 555
That's
SHOE
right.
and no.
Our phones are ringing.
That's it. Absolutely ringing hot.
Yep.
No, we're not going to do that. Taking call-ins would be another layer of complication that we don't need to add on a show as ramshackle as what this already is. So yeah. So in news this week, before we sort of kick on into gaming, because we mentioned it on the close of last week's episode, I did manage to sort of impinge on my gaming time this last weekend and binge watch the entire second season of Jessica Jones.
Oh, my goodness. Say no more.
I will not spoil anything. Suffice to say that I enjoyed it a great deal. So
spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler, Luke liked it. It was a thing. Yeah.
You did put one thing in our chat that's a bit of a spoiler.
I haven't seen that, so hopefully that's not a chat I'm in.
I can't actually even remember.
Good.
Yeah.
No, it is significantly different to the first season. That is all I'll say. So it was good. But it certainly did hit on the video gaming time because that's, 13 episodes? It's a good, 11 plus hours worth of content. So it's all right weekend, gotta say. So what did you guys get up to playing games during the last week? Jam, what did you spend your time doing?
Well, in Sims, I have now made our entire D&D party.
No.
They are not yet in a village together.
Okay.
Because I realised that my bard, who had been in an apartment, does not yet have enough money to move out of the apartment. So I'm working on that. But I've got everyone else designed and ready to go. I shared photos with the group. You were the least impressed.
Me?
Yeah.
Least impressed?
You gave me no description. But I found Suda armor. So your guy got a Suda armor, your cleric.
Yeah,
He's not a cleric.
Yeah. Just to clarify, it wasn't that I was unimpressed. It was that I sort of looked at it and went, cool, this is what happens when I give you no direction. It looks nothing like the character.
Yes, that is what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. It was fun getting to choose all of their little characteristics and quirks and flesh it out, like the druid likes animals and whatnot. It's rubbish, but it's hilarious.
I'm going to say full nerd points for you though, Jam. Like combining D&D with The Sims, that's an achievement.
Oh, right, I know. Emma's my God, I just went total brain blank. Mimo, her character Anna, is the best of the lot because she's drow and she looks awesome because I was able to do the grey skin and the white hair.
That does look
no
pretty
pointy
cool.
ears, but she stands out from the rest.
Yeah.
And Mark's druid just looks goofy because he's really gaunt and he's got shadows under his eyes and shaggy hair, so he just looks like a filthy addict. It's a bit weird. But yeah, that was good fun. It was a couple of hours of stupidity and laughing to myself as I made these characters come to digital life.
Maybe that's an expansion they need to add to the game. The Sims Hobo expansion.
Actually, I thought you were going to say Sims D&D expansion.
There was a medieval version.
You could be on something.
Medieval, yeah.
Yeah, I've got that.
I did
half
play that a
considered
little
making
bit.
them in that. It's not as good.
No.
It's less freedom. You're a lot more pigeonholed.
Yeah.
But I feel like they should do an expansion for The Sims 4 where your Sims play D&D and then you play like a mini version of The Sims
my God,
in The
yes.
Sims, and then that determines, I don't know, affects the real world somehow.
You're talking about
Maybe.
Simception.
Yeah,
You can just jump between real life and fantasy, or
Wow.
so-called real life.
That's crazy. That would be interesting.
That'd be good
That
fun.
would be funny. So yeah, that was fun. And then I jumped on some more Fortnite, which you joined us for, Luke.
I did. I got to play Fortnite for the first time. That was a lot of fun. I have thoughts on the game now.
Really? What are your thoughts?
Fortnite.
Yeah, like I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, if I'm being fair, because the short game length appeals to me a great deal, like the ability to sort of jump in and sort of whiz through without that huge... Like, don't get me wrong, I really do enjoy the build-up that PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has, like where it is that definite feeling of tension where you're creeping around and sort of trying to take stock of the environment before you engage, and then everything happens very quickly. With Fortnite, it definitely feels a lot more like a hero shooter in a way. And the games are a lot quicker, but I really like it. Like the ability to actually get a whole bunch of games in without feeling like you've just wasted half an hour when something goes wrong, I think is actually a big selling point for that game. So, and the construction side of things is super fun. Like I'm really shit at it.
Me too still.
And one of the things that I've realized playing that game is that when you get killed and you watch the camera view of some of your opponents and how quick some of people have gotten with the building of the different things. Like, I mean, it sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is, because in Fortnite, there's generally only 4 basic shapes that you can build. It's like walls and platforms and ramps and things like that, like real basic stuff. So it's not terribly complicated, but people are really, really quick at it to the point where they're very rapidly erecting defenses around themselves and giving themselves like an aerial ability to sort of take the high ground and shoot down on people.
So I haven't played Fortnite. To build this stuff, do you need to like collect like stuff in the environment, like resources?
Start with a pickaxe and that's all you've got. You can like whack on trees or rocks basically to gather stone and wood, and any metal objects to gather metal. There's
really only 3 resources, and what they equate to isn't basic. What you can build, it's how tough the stuff you build is. So if you want to spend the time harvesting like steel and brick instead of just wood, then the stuff that you build with it is going to take a lot more gunfire before it goes down, essentially.
So it's basically 3 Little Pigs simulator.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of describing it. That's awesome.
I'm still enjoying it, but it doesn't have the same draw as PUBG for me. I like getting invested in PUBG. I like the complicated weapon choice and the greater chance of being able to stealth and zoom and use vehicles. Like, it's enjoyable. I still really like Fortnite. It's great fun. And it's a different group playing it on the PlayStation too, so it was nice to jump in with them.
That's true.
And have it crack. But I jumped back into PUBG briefly before this to check out the 9 gig update that got rolled out in the last day. You can emote now, which is pretty funny. You can like draw the finger across the throat very threateningly.
Okay. Are all emotes unlocked, or are they things you have to earn?
It's a wheel. It's a big wheel. Actually, I didn't check for a dance one. I didn't see them all because I was only really playing with them in the lobby, and then once we landed, completely forgot about it. I don't know what use they're going to be. Maybe it's just a bit of fun. Maybe it's so people can make movies in PUBG. And apparently there's some bullet penetration. We were driving around in some cars and had some weird, funny slippy slide stuff going on with fishtailing all over the place. I wasn't driving, so I don't know if this is like a change to the physics of the car dynamics or if it was just bad driving on Harry and Ollie's part. But yeah, still fun.
I would really like PUBG to take a leaf from Fortnite's book when it comes to the unlockable sort of cosmetics, because I think that Fortnite does that in particular really, really well with like their battle pass format. So Christian, the way it works in Fortnite is that essentially you gain levels as you sort of gain experience and sort of advance your character, and the levels don't equate to much except for like if you're playing free, every 5 levels or so you sort of unlock something, which is in-game currency or maybe like an emote or a portrait or something like that. If you pay for like the battle pass, which is kind of like the season pass, if you like, and each season I think is 2 months worth of gameplay, it gives you stuff that you can get at each level of unlock instead of every 5. So all of the stuff theoretically is still available at both levels. It's just that if you are a paid player, you get the cosmetic content on a much faster rate.
But it is all cosmetic content, isn't it?
It's all cosmetic. That's it. Yeah, nothing gameplay related at all. So
because the moment like a battle royale game adds stuff like drops that affect you at the start of the game, then it just defeats the purpose. Yeah. 100%
agree. But
cool.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to support the game, and keeping in mind that Fortnite is free too, unlike PUBG, which you actually have to pay the upfront price for.
I actually didn't know Fortnite was free.
Oh, there you go. So yeah,
the battle royale is.
Yes, true. Yeah. So yeah, I really like that model, and the whole idea of doing it as like a season cycle, I think, is actually a really clever way to get people playing the game regularly and involved in the content, as opposed to just buying single cosmetics, because the whole idea is that the more you rank up, the more stuff you'll unlock. So that actually gives you a reason to be in the game playing, which I think is very clever. It's like the Diablo seasonal content, essentially, how that works. So very clever.
Oh, I forgot another thing for PUBG. It has achievements now.
Oh, okay.
I got the pacifist achievement pretty quickly when I died. Pretty quickly.
Is that finishing a game without getting a kill?
Yeah.
Is it Steam achievements or in-game achievements?
I hadn't even realised that they hadn't had achievements previously.
Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, and so I got the pacifist one. I'm like, what are you talking about? There have been many, many games where I've not killed anyone. What? And then I was like, oh, wait, this is new. And I have 2 out of 37.
I suspect that this might actually be a bit of carryover from the Xbox launch of the game, because an Xbox game, there without achievements would stand out like a sore thumb, because that's like Xbox's big thing. So,
True.
Interesting. There you go. So yeah, Fortnite. It's a bit of fun. I played a game this week, which I finished last night, in fact, which I will say this is actually the second game ever now that has made me cry.
Wow.
So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wait, what was
the first?
I'm sure you can guess the first one. I'll give you a clue.
Walking Dead?
No. Think about
Last of Us?
Yeah, Last of Us, yeah. It's
Okay.
absolutely, because it's got the parental triggers for me, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. The beginning and end of that game pretty much set me off. So
Cool.
for different reasons. But the one that don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I was bawling my eyes out, but it hit me in a very strong emotional place, and that is the very last sort of episode for Life is Strange Before the Storm. They released a bonus episode a couple of weeks ago now called Farewell, which basically is it's almost like a bit of a bridging episode between the original Life is Strange and this sort of prequel series. And what they did with this one is they brought back the original voice actors who voiced Max and Chloe. And the whole point of the episode is that it's kind of like before the original Life is Strange begins, you're introduced to the concept of both these characters who are sort of childhood friends. And then Max Caulfield actually has to move away to Seattle before sort of the series starts proper. And the whole idea of the story is that she's actually come back to their town of Arcadia Bay, and that's when a lot of the stuff sort of kicks off. But the whole concept of 2 childhood friends sort of, saying goodbye, not knowing if they're actually ever going to see each other again, is a pretty, heart-wrenching thing on its own. But it's actually called Farewell for more reason than just that. There's also another very emotional farewell that happens during this bonus episode, which is to do with the tragedy that happens in the main story that you've kind of known about, but you get to see it.
That.
Yeah, you get to see it up close with this one, and it pushes all the buttons. Like it's kind of like it's a sandbox episode in a lot of ways, where you're kind of exploring around their house and sort of looking at different objects here and there, and each object has a story that it tells that's to do with the characters in the season so far, and a lot of history that it sort of has entwined in it. There's a really cool thing where they sort of, because they're younger kids during this one, they actually are digging up pirate treasure that they themselves have buried like many years ago as like a time capsule, and they find it, and you dig it up again, and you're kind of reliving elements of their childhood, but all of it's just really heartfelt sort of emotional stuff. And I've actually never played anything quite like this episode. It's a little different to the rest of the season, but man, does it go places. It's really good. It's shorter than all of the other episodes, so don't expect it to be one of the full-length kind of dramatic episodes that the rest of the series is pretty well known for. This one's certainly not dramatic. It's very touchy-feely sort of story content. There's a little puzzly stuff in there, but not a whole lot. But man, what a great way to send off the series. I just I can't get enough of this game, which is a shame because I've now gotten all of it. So I'm gonna have to wait till they do a sequel or something, but God knows what that sequel's gonna look like.
Life is Stranger.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, oh man, they're going to have some big story continuity issues with the sequel. That's all I'm going to say, because there's a couple of endings for the first series, like the original Life is Strange, and I don't think they could actually do either of those particular endings justice if they ignore them. So I don't know.
What about different set of characters, different stories, same mechanic?
I don't know. It's the same dilemma that we had at the end of Mass Effect 3. It really is similar to that. Yeah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So,
you're invested and new stuff just feels weird.
yeah, and the final events of the story really do change the landscape of what they would do afterwards. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I hope they don't do another prequel, but I don't know. They might have to do a side story. Who knows? It's interesting. But yeah, anyway, so on to something completely different now. Christian, I know that you played something during the week, which we don't want to talk too much about because we do have time slated for that ahead of time. But what's going on? What were you playing?
I jumped the gun a little bit on our party game of the month, and I stepped into the breach and started playing Into the Breach.
Nice.
Yeah, which is all I'll say at the moment is that I am enjoying it, and I am going to continue playing it over the coming weeks. Hopefully, it'll last me all the way up until we actually have the main topic and talk about it. But yeah, it's good fun. But other than that, I've been still chipping away at Monster Hunter World. I think I've decided I want to go for the platinum trophy on that.
Oh, nice! I was actually tempted by that. Bravo. I must admit, but that does look pretty harrowing.
Yeah, there's some pretty intense trophies in there, like what's the hardest one? Oh, there's this crown system where every time you fight a monster, it has a chance of being especially small or especially big, and you need to get like a small crown and a big crown for like nearly every monster in the game.
Yeah, I got a small crown the other day, and I had no idea what that was.
Yeah, that from what I've read, that one takes the longest. So that'll be because it's just pure RNG whether or not the monster's big or small. Yeah. And then there's just like hunt 1,000 large monsters, and I think I'm only at like 200 and something, so that would be...
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't know. You have to do those quests where you kill like 3 or 4 monsters at once.
I think that's the danger with some of the platinum trophies on PlayStation games, though. The ones that it turns into grinding, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Like... I like the Horizon Zero Dawn ones because they required you to explore the entire world as opposed to grinding content, but stuff like this, yeah, appeals to me less for that reason.
There's definitely grind in it, but yeah, I think I'll do it in the end.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. If you do, I'll be super impressed. Put it that way. I did see, now this is jumping the gun on some of our news topics a little bit because we didn't have this on our list for tonight. I did see that there's going to be a bit of a news release coming up. They're doing like an online presentation, like stream. I think it's going to be tomorrow, talking about the next steps for Monster Hunter World and the new monster that's going to be released soon as
Devil
DLC.
Joe.
Devil Joe, yeah. Do you know anything about that thing? Or
I know that Devil Joe has the affectionate nickname from previous games of Pickle, because apparently it looks like a big green pickle.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's cute. And I know that the way they're going to introduce it to the game, it's going to be another invasion monster, which is like the Basil guys, where it can turn up on any map at any time as like an invasion monster. So it's not going to have like its own place that it lives like the other monsters do.
Basilgeist. Fuck that guy. All right.
I love him.
Yeah. Basil.
Mm-hmm. And Jam, you had one other thing on the list, so tell us a bit about Tabletop Simulator.
So, played a couple of rounds of PUBG on Saturday, and Ollie had to jump off because he had, real life plans or some rubbish. And Al convinced me in about 30 seconds to install Tabletop Simulator. Because he's like, we can play Carcassonne, we can play this, we can play that. And we did. We played a bunch of games. It was really good. It's only what, $20? I think. And there are so many mods for so many games. I've discovered that Secret Hitler's in there. I've discovered that Whitehall Mystery is in there, although it looked a little bit buggy. Some of my favourite games are in there. So we played Big Game of Carcassonne. I'm pretty sure Al won that one. Yeah, I didn't do that great. I didn't commit my farmers early enough. And it's really funny because there's like a table flip button that you can do. Yeah. You can reset it afterwards, but it was quite funny. It was a bit awkward because everything has to be manually done. All of the components of the game, they'll appear, but then you have to move them, you have to score. Apparently you can get versions or download, bits where they code some of that stuff for you. You can make the components bigger or smaller. So we were having a big Carcassonne game. We were trying to shrink the tiles down to fit things, but then everything was slightly different sizes. It was a bit awkward. But when you get the hang of the pretty basic controls, it's a really neat way of playing with friends without having to, trot on over to their place.
Yeah.
Wherever they may be. And we were playing with like a guy in America, someone in New Zealand. Like it was just a group of people who knew people who knew people. So it was really fun.
And theoretically without the cost of the game as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's a bit sneaky. Probably. We played Rick and Morty Munchkin. We played a game called Weeds, a little card game. We got to grow a pretty good weed farm. and a couple of others whose names I cannot remember. But it was kind of interesting, in the space of a few hours, we managed to muck around and play a handful of board games without me leaving my desk, which was really convenient. So that was a nice way to pass the time. And I'm keen to see what other games are on there to introduce them to some of our friends and hopefully convince them to play it in person sometime.
Yeah.
Because they're great.
I can imagine that Tabletop Simulator would take care of one of the most annoying parts of board gaming, which is actually having to pack the thing up when you're done. So,
yeah, you just flip the table and it's just like cascading everywhere. It's great.
Yep.
You don't have to clean it up. You just leave it.
Yep. That box
Eternally.
control out the window. That's cool.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, nice one. All right, well, let's kick off into some of the news stuff for this week then, because as it turns out, been quite a busy week full of lots of different things happening. So, Christian, should we take it away with the absolute number one most important headline of the week?
We absolutely should, now that Ollie's not here to put the kibosh on us talking about...
I can complain.
But you're outnumbered now.
No one's going to listen.
Yeah.
I'll just be quiet.
I'll get through it quickly. So Blizzard announced a new Hearthstone expansion. So this is their first one for the year. There's 3 a year. And this one's called the Witchwood. And I don't know anything about World of Warcraft lore, but it's like a gothic horror setting, kind of Sleepy Hollow-ish. Monsters in the woods. Yeah. Very Worgen focused. It's like the werewolf people, I believe. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it looks really cool. The sort of new mechanics for this expansion seem to be that they've announced so far. There's 2 new keywords. One is called Echo, which is where if you play a card, then until the end of your turn, you add another copy of it to your hand. So say you've got 10 mana and the card costs 2 mana, then you can play 5 of that card because it'll create an echo every time you play it, which is pretty interesting. And the other keyword is Rush, which is kind of like the charge mechanic where the minion can attack as soon as you play it, except the minion can't attack the enemy hero. It can only attack enemy minions, which helps a lot because charge is a keyword that Blizzard have had a lot of trouble balancing in the past. It's led to a lot of like unbalanced decks and unbalanced combos where you can kill your enemy really quickly without them being able to react. So Rush is a really, really nice way of balancing the old charge mechanic, which is cool. And they've also announced another single-player mode. The most recent expansion, Kobolds and Catacombs, they introduced like this dungeon run where it's like a sort of roguelike. You create a random deck as you progress through different boss fights, and they're doing another one for the Wildwood, but instead of picking one of the 9 classes, there are sort of select pre-made heroes that you choose, and those heroes go through the Wildwood and go through branching paths and fight enemy bosses and put together a deck, and it looks pretty fun. Yeah,
it's a good one for new players whenever an expansion like this launches, if there's a bit of single-player content that they can play along with without having to necessarily create a huge collection of cards to be able to take part. So
and this is 2 in a row now, so it might be a trend where they sort of have liked the response to the dungeon run, and they might keep doing it for future expansions.
Yeah, dungeon run was awesome. You just need more reason to play it, essentially. So
yeah.
But
I was always surprised they never let you complete quests in it. That was one thing I wanted.
I think there is a dungeon run quest.
There is a dungeon run quest, yeah.
I've definitely had one before where you have to beat like a number of bosses in dungeon run, but you're right. There's not a huge amount of reason to go back in. Yeah. Jan, did you ever have a go of that? Like, is that something that you... No. I know that Mimo played quite a bit of dungeon run.
I just wanted to chime
in. No, it's good fun. It's, I mean, there is a wealth of single-player content in this game now, so that even if you didn't get invested in it as a hobby, like for free, it's still pretty damn fun. So, yeah.
I like it. I like these random roguelike things way better than the adventures they used to have. The adventures were fun for like the story content, but they had even less like replayability than these adventures. You just go through them once and then you were done. Whereas, these dungeon runs have some replayability.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I'll say as well, just before we hop off the topic of the expansion, is that the announcement video they put up is kind of like this weird sort of real life Blair Witch sort of project kind of mashup where they're sort of going through a couple of the senior sort of designers in the team are going through the woods and uncovering cards and it's a bit tongue in cheek, but holy crap, it's hilarious. You should check it out. It's really good. Yeah,
and like they had like a little bit of a viral marketing lead up to it where one of the designers on Twitter just said that he was going camping and just posted posted like a picture of himself out in the woods. And then Ben Brode, the other developer, was like, I can't find, like, I've lost contact with this other guy. I'm going to go out into the woods and try and find him.
Yeah.
And then people were like, is this part of the announcement or should we be worried?
Do we need to call the authorities?
Yeah. But then, it's just part of the announcement.
Yeah. They have an awesome sense of humor, these guys. So.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, there you go.
One last thing on that. If anybody would like to know, the pre-order for it is the best value pre-order they've done. So normally it's like pay for 50, get 60, I think. But this is pay for 50, get 70 card packs. So they've increased the value of the pre-order for the set, which is pretty cool. And they're also giving everybody 3 free packs and a free legendary if you log in after the expansion launches. So
pretty awesome. When Christian and I will both be picking that up, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I've already pre-ordered.
Yeah, the only concern I have is that I have a holiday coming up shortly, and looks like it might be launching around that time. So I hope I don't get interrupted on launch day.
Hearthstone's a mobile game. So
I know. I just don't want. I just don't want to have launch day interrupted. The rest of it's fine.
Yeah.
So.
I don't want to have launch day interrupted. Don't want to have my holiday interrupted.
Nah, fuck the holiday.
Priorities.
Oh, poor Lisa. So some other stuff happened. Speaking of Fortnite, there were 2 announcements, very interestingly. First, that cross-compatibility was coming with mobile and PlayStation and PC. And everyone went, ooh, because no word on Xbox. But then the next day, they announced Xbox will also be cross-compatible with PC and mobile.
But not PlayStation.
They're still not talking to each other. Yeah. It's really odd. So they're releasing their mobile versions very soon, which is kind of neat. I don't know how it will work, but I guess it's the kind of game that it might work quite well. iOS uses can register already. Android can register their interest to find out when registration is... I don't know. It's not quite ready yet. But yeah, it's weird. So mobile players will have the option of joining queues that involve PC and PlayStation. Mobile players will also have the option of queuing in games with PC and Xbox players, or they can stick with just mobile if they don't want to suffer the disadvantage of, not having the peripherals. So they're not automatically going to get dumped with players who have, controllers or keyboard and mouse and everything. But the option's going to be available except Xbox with PlayStation. They're still not talking. They sort of tiptoed around it, but it's been confirmed Xbox and PlayStation still not playing friends. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure PlayStation's still getting blamed.
Yeah, I think that they are probably still the primary cause of this. For reasons that we all understand.
That's a shame because this game's just growing in popularity. It's amazing that they're releasing a mobile version that's going to be compatible. I just don't understand how you're going to... I have trouble on my screen seeing people in the distance. Like, I'm having trouble, let alone finding the good guns to, I've only played twice, and I'm rubbish, but still, on a mobile, geez.
The fact that they're allowing mobile versus console and mobile versus PC compatibility, that indicates they're pretty confident about how decent the mobile port's going to be of this game.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. Cannot wait to see what that looks like.
Yeah, so that happened. Very unusual. This game that was supposed to be like a PvE zombie fighter is just morphed.
Yeah.
It's morphed into this battle royale machine that's just growing and growing, which is quite surprising.
Well, you can't dispute their call on doing that because it certainly worked out for them, so it's good. Other big news this week, we of course just after recording last week, we actually had the Nintendo March Direct. So for anyone who doesn't know how Nintendo operate, they tend to like to own the news cycle and do their own sort of press announcements and press releases, which are usually held online as a video presentation or a stream once every few months or however long they like to do it. And they tend to theme them together. So they usually have like either a smattering of a whole bunch of different things, or they have like a themed direct where they might do like a Pokemon direct, or they might do like a Mario direct, or whatever happens to be the cluster of things they can sort of categorize together. So the one this time was like a good mix of stuff. So it was a whole bunch of things just as like a big March presentation. But there was some pretty big news dropped during this one. So the headliners, probably the number one headliner was that they have confirmed that Super Smash Bros. Is coming to Nintendo Switch. And it's coming in 2018. So, That's a super interesting one. And Christian, you sort of pointed out during the week as well that apparently the original creator is involved.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Yeah, so Masahiro Sakurai has been the head of the last 3, I think, every Smash Brothers except Smash 64 has been the lead director on. Mm-hmm. He's announced that he's continuing to work on this title, which is a bit of a surprise to some people because he's not quite nearly died in the past, but he described working on the Wii U Smash Brothers as a noose around his neck is how he described it.
Wow.
Yeah, and he said that he started getting joint pain and inflammation and suffering bad physical symptoms from all the stress and tension he was having actually being lead on Smash Bros. But he's back for more because he can't hand the reins to anybody else apparently. So yeah, I hope he doesn't push himself too hard this time.
Well, we still don't know if this is a port or if it's an actually new Smash Brothers game. So
yeah, my prediction is it'll probably look very similar to the Wii U version, but with new content. But I think it'll probably be kind of based off the Wii U version.
Is the Wii U version Smash Brawl, or am I getting that confused?
No, the Wii U version is just Smash Wii U, so it didn't have a subtitle. It was they did the simultaneous release of Smash 3DS and Smash Wii U, and they were both basically the same with a few small differences.
Right.
But yeah, it was a completely new title from Brawl.
Okay, interesting. So with the Switch version, we can anticipate that maybe they'll add some new maps and maybe a couple of new characters or something like that, but keep it all fairly much the same, which is not a bad thing because if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of thing.
Yeah, I reckon there'll be tons of crossover. But one thing somebody's noticed already is that the Link that you see in the trailer is wearing the Breath of the Wild garb. So it won't and in the Wii U version, he's wearing Skyward Sword. So they're at least redesigning Link, so that kind of indicates that it's not just a straight port. There's going to be more to it. But
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And we do know there's going to be a couple of Splatoon characters that are going to make their way into it as well. So what are they, the Octolings they're called?
Yeah, the Octolings are the baddies. These are the squid kids. I can't remember what they're called. Inklings,
yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So speaking of Splatoon as well, one of the other things touched on during the Direct was that there is single-player story DLC coming to Splatoon 2, which actually does feature the Octolings because it is called Octo. So really interesting sort of presentation video for this one. There's a whole bunch of, look at the world outside the Splatoon arenas. So they're, hopping on sort of grimy-looking subway stations, and it's a bit more out in the real world kind of situation. Looks really intriguing. So a game that hasn't really done single-player story content before, doing it as DLC, that's very new. So that will be quite interesting to see. So following the theme of Octo-related stuff, also we had a bit more on Octopath Traveler, which is the new RPG, which has been rumoured to be on the way for quite some time. A lot of people have been sort of floating around conspiracy theories about what this thing actually is, because it looks very sort of old-school Final Fantasy-esque. But no, it is its own thing. It is called Octopath Traveler, and it is coming out later this year. So they said this US summer.
Yeah.
So we'll see what that actually means.
The exciting thing for me about that Octopath information is they said that it has the job system, which was from Final Fantasy V and Bravely Default, which is where the characters can switch their jobs and mix and match abilities from different jobs. And it's just a really, really fun combat system. So that's exciting.
Oh, there you go. A bunch of other ports announced. So South Park: The Fractured But Whole is coming to Switch. We've also got the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy is coming as well. We already knew that Dark Souls was coming, but now there's a Dark Souls amiibo coming, which is the
Solaire.
The Solaire amiibo. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. A bunch of different things. So if you want to check out all of the Nintendo Direct news, just Google Nintendo March Direct, and you'll get an absolute treasure trove of releases that are coming to the Switch. So there's plenty to be excited about if you're a Switch owner, which is awesome. There you go.
Cool. And this isn't a Hearthstone topic, I swear, Jam. This Valve have announced some more details about their card game, which is called Artifact. So previously, very, very little was known about this game, other than it's a tradable card game which had 3 lanes in it, kind of like Dota. And they've actually shown off screenshots and some gameplay information on Artifact. And sure enough, it does have 3 lanes, and it looks like you're basically playing 3 games of Hearthstone at once, is how it looks. There's 3 different decks with 3 different heroes on either side that you're all playing simultaneously, and it's bizarre. But yeah, it looks pretty interesting. And they also said that it's not a like pay to win or a free to play game. It's going to have like a fixed price, which is interesting. You are going to be able to buy card packs as well. So I'm not sure how that's actually going to be balanced, but Gabe Newell has sworn up and down that it's not pay to win and it's not free to play, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that I take as gospel, because I think card games ultimately do have to follow a bit of that kind of model with
exactly.
And whenever there's new cards, there's got to be a certain amount of power creep, otherwise things just don't keep exciting. So
yeah. They have said that you can trade cards in it. It is like a trading card game. So unlike Hearthstone, it'll have some sort of like integrated into the Steam Workshop, I think, where you can buy and sell cards.
Makes sense. One of the big appeals to this game for me is the fact that it has been designed by Richard Garfield, who is the original creator of Magic the Gathering, and that guy is a freaking genius. So that gives it a fair bit of credibility, I think, which is interesting. So
it is this weird MOBA card game hybrid with the lanes, and you have like towers in those lanes, and you have like allied creeps that like card creeps, just like in a MOBA. Yeah, it's weird. And it has a color system similar to Magic, where there's sort of 4 different... It's red, green, black, and blue, and they each have like a different style. Yeah, so I'm really keen to hear more details and eventually play the damn thing, but it's probably not going to be out this year.
No, I think
they do have an esports tournament that they've said is going to happen in 2019, so it'll at least be out by then.
It's a tough market for them to get into. There's a lot of action happening in the digital card game space these days, but
definitely,
yeah, we'll see. But I mean, if that doesn't work out for them, that apparently the other big headline that kind of got buried with the Artifact news was that Valve have pretty much said that they are making and shipping games again. That's kind of big news because...
Interesting.
Well, I mean, obviously all the conspiracy theorists out there, as soon as they saw Gabe Newell saying that, were instantly like, Half-Life 3 confirmed, Half-Life 3 confirmed. Yeah. No, that's not what that means at all. Because apparently the vast majority of them are actually VR titles, which makes a whole bunch of sense. So some of the narrative coming out of Gabe was that what they're seeking to do is kind of learning from what Nintendo's done, because they tend to have some of their big first-party games actually get modelled around the peripherals and the control schemes. So they intuitively make things that match their hardware very, very closely. Now that Valve are actually producing VR hardware in the form of the HTC Vive, it makes sense for them to start to leverage that a little bit more, because it's kind of, cross-pollinizing their different sort of business models. So, but one game that I can think of that would fit the conspiracy theory model that I think would be absolutely revolutionary in VR would be a VR Portal. So what do you think of that?
Oh, yes. It would definitely.
I think that sounds nauseating.
Really? I think it'd be so good.
I think it'd be fun, but VR Portal sounds like it would legitimately make me nauseous.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, assume then maybe that you have to get an object through the level, through the portals, and not actually fly you and your headset through them, because then, yes, there would be vomit.
I don't know, man. Can you imagine like portaling the roof above you and then the floor at your feet and then experiencing that in VR?
No.
I like Jam's idea of it being like a puzzly thing where you are using a portal gun and perspective to navigate things around, but not
especially
you yourself.
Multiplayer, that would work really well, I think. It would have to be okay, if I stand here, I can hit that surface, and then once it's gone through there, I need to release that and shoot there while you do this. It would be cool.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Bring on the bath bags. Let's do it.
Oh, God, no.
Plug me in.
They said there are 3 VR games, did they? At least 3 or something?
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
No idea what that means. I sincerely hope that one of them is not Half-Life, because I actually am one of the camps that thinks that they should probably never make that game. I just don't think it could ever possibly live up to the expectations.
I think I'm 90% of the way there, Luke. Yeah.
Really? Interesting.
No, I think I'm pretty much agreeing with you. There's a little part of me that will always be like, I wish I could play it, but at the same time, it's inevitably going to disappoint people unless they think of something truly revolutionary. So they should they could wait 10 more years until they finally come up with something that's revolutionary, and I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, people just need to shut up about it, and then they can make it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Some other stuff happened in the last week. We had some release announcements, a couple of new ones. One being from Ubisoft, they've announced The Division 2, which promptly got our friend group talking about how good Division 1 is now. So that's reinstalled on my computer to go back and check out very soon.
Do you know what? I might be following you next week, perhaps.
I really enjoyed it. I just got a bit bored, and apparently there's so much to do now. One of our friends was talking about this sort of survival mission you have to go on. It sounded really cool. It sounded challenging. It sounded interesting that there was a survival aspect that you had to, succeed in, and not just bullet sponge bosses standing in your way everywhere. So yeah, I'm going to check that out. That was kind of neat. Activision announced Coblops 4. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a 4th. I didn't even quite remember that there was a 3rd.
Well, the last Call of Duty Black Ops that I played was 2, and I enjoyed that game quite a bit, mostly from a single-player perspective. So I'll play a 4.
Yeah, I always watched my brother playing the single player and the multiplayer, but that's because he was good and it was interesting. When I picked it up, oh man, I think it was number 2. The first match I joined in halfway through, I accidentally killed 2 people and defused a bomb, and then I was standing there going, I can never play another game online again. My stats right now are amazing. I should just not touch it. But of course, I tried another few games and botched that up. So, I mean, a lot of people are going to be, keen and have a lot of fun. Whether it's going to be any different, I don't think so. But, people want more COD blobs. That's what they're going to get. Yeah. As long as there's some good level design and fun gameplay. Yep. It'll be good.
They'll keep milking that franchise every year. That's how it's going.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, we had confirmation from Sony, their open world post-apoc zombie game, Days Gone. There wasn't a confirmed date originally, but they have confirmed it won't be out till 2019. So
good.
Yeah.
That means, they're working on it to make it a quality thing. That's great. But it's been a couple of years now since we saw the first video footage.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to look a bit different when it's revealed again. I
usually do.
Putting it back in the oven. My prediction is that it'll be more online focused. It's I'm calling it now. They're going to make it like an online thingy. Yep.
Cool.
I'd be totally okay with that. I think that's a good move, potentially. So
for the type of zombie hordes they've got, from what we've seen, that would be really cool because it's like mass zombies. There's proper hordes, so doing that as a group would be amazing.
Yeah, I want it to be like you use those zombie hordes as weapons, like corral them into enemy bases.
Oh, against each other?
Yeah.
My god!
Because it's got this like biker gang thing going on. I don't want you to be using your bikes to like lure the zombies over to enemy hideouts and stuff.
That'd be cool. Awesome. I'm picturing something working almost like a cross between 7 Days to Die and Far Cry, that kind of thing. That'd be interesting. Like a bit of crafting sort of mechanics in there, and still story elements, but more focusing on the sort of survival aspects. That'd be kind of cool.
Which is what Fortnite was supposed to be, sort of.
A little bit like that. Kind of basic though. But yeah. Oh, that's an interesting one.
Popular themes.
Yeah, absolutely. And zombies will, never die, really. Pardon the pun.
No.
But I think there's probably a good chance to take a break from it for a little bit. There's still a little bit
Speaking
of
of things that'll never die, Luke.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll move on to our main topic for tonight.
Segue.
So tonight, I thought it would be a fun idea if the three of us all pitched 3 games that we like to bring back from the dead like zombies. So these are 3 game series that we haven't seen a title from in years that we all loved and would love to see come back. And how would we do that?
I'm in, I'm down. Let's rock and roll. Yeah, this is a great idea.
You got all your notes ready, guys?
Yeah, I got my notes ready. So this is kind of like we did the whole picture game thing like a little while back where I think we did mashups for the last one. So take 2 different games and combine them. So this is like a revival spin on that, which I really love. So yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't set too firm rules for it, but in my mind, I was kind of like, if it had a game in the last 10 years, it doesn't count. This was my sort of benchmark for it. It needed to be at least 10 years.
Qualifier, yes.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, you can start us off, Luke. So spin us a yarn on your 3 games you'd like to bring back from the dead.
All right, I'm just checking if one of them was 10 years. I think it might have been probably close.
It's okay. We didn't set any fixed rules. But that was just my... Yeah.
My notes are basic too. I got to think of a story.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right, well, I'll start with probably my absolute number 1 game that I would love to see this franchise renewed in some way, shape, or form, and that is one of it's actually on my top 10 of all time favorites list. So the original Battletoads. So
you masochist.
Battletoads is awesome. It's so good. It's the souls of 2.5D platformers. So yeah, I mean, the original Battletoads was kind of like a cartoon-esque brawler that was done as a sort of a 2.5D platformer, but it had mixed elements of sort of brawling, platforming, and like twitch reflex sort of speed action puzzle solving
You're talking about
levels.
the speeder bikes, aren't you?
Yeah,
Those dreaded speeder bikes.
Well, there's a bunch of different types of takes on that they did, and I even played the original Game Boy Battletoads as well, which had bits like this too. Like there was a level on the Game Boy version that was kind of similar, where you actually had to dodge a giant sort of ball that kind of chased you around a level, and like the speed at which you took corners and navigated around obstacles and stuff to stop this thing from crushing you was actually part of the skill too. But man, like they had some really unique different levels in this game. Like one of the things I loved about the original Battletoads is that every single level was different and unique, and there was not a lot of repeated sort of mechanics at all. So as a revival for that game, I sort of was thinking about the key aspects of it, and number one key aspect I'd say would be the brawling. So the over-the-top cartoon-esque brawling mechanics I thought were really cool. And then the different sort of environments would be another one, and then the extremely high difficulty level and platforming elements would be another one. So, I thought, well, what's a game that could incorporate sort of some of those that I could use as a comparison and sort of take a bit of a leaf from its book? And I immediately thought of the Batman Arkham games actually. So I thought that the brawling aspects, especially because the one thing that Batman Arkham sort of games do really well is they have that kind of brawling system which works great when there's crowds of enemies, and that's exactly what works well with Battletoads, because some of the combo attacks and things that you can do, like with Battletoads, it would often take the shape of, you punch a dude, you punch a dude, you punch a dude, and then for the finishing blow, your fist just swells to like gigantic size, and you just bounce him off the screen, basically. Same sort of thing, like you could be kicking them and all of a sudden like a giant boot just appears out of nowhere and just boots them out of the game, sort of thing. That sort of stuff is great, but it played as a multiplayer game too, so you could actually have like player 1 and player 2 brawling together, and I think that works really well with the Arkham style brawling, because you can actually have, and they did this in some of the Arkham, not Arkham Origins, there might actually, was it in Arkham Origins? They might have introduced a bit of it there. Arkham Knight, the most recent entry in the series, actually had some mechanics where you would actually brawl with one of the other characters, like in close proximity. Like you might be playing as Batman, for instance, and Nightwing is near you. And if you get close to Nightwing while you're in the combat against a whole bunch of other dudes, you can sort of do like a combo move where the two team up and do like a finishing move together. And I'd imagine that working similarly, but with two actual players as opposed to like a AI-controlled other character. So, although I guess it could work both ways, really. I guess there's no reason why it couldn't. But sort of the brawling mechanics like that. The platforming, kind of similar to Arkham in a way. Like there's a lot of areas of the terrain that you can kind of traverse and different sort of puzzly ways to get in and out of different areas of the map. I imagine it to be a bit more linear though, like probably not an open world kind of setup. But still an adventure type game where you have to actually find the way to get to various places, involving a little bit of jumping around and aerial antics. But then you would also need to have the extremely high difficulty ceiling sort of speed type challenges, and I think that maybe some of the Batmobile type levels that they did in Arkham Knight kind of fit that mold. You'd want them to be less shit though, because the Batmobile levels in that game were not great. They were probably one of the downsides of the game, but they had some aspects that were kind of fun. So, but yeah, no, I can imagine that all working very well together, and I would just love to see Battletoads hit the game scene again, because that game is just immensely fun. So anyway, that's the first one. Now, should I rock it through the other two? Are we going to take turns?
Yeah, let's while you're on a roll, let's rock it through the other two, and then we'll
I'll be a little bit less verbose with the other two. So the next one, which is a big all-time favourite series of mine, which sadly I don't think will ever see the light of day again because of Konami now being a factory of fuckheads. So no, I'm being a bit harsh. Whoa. They're not that bad. They're really not that.
Damn.
They're not that bad.
Nah, just own that. Own
Say
it.
what you really feel, Luke.
What I really feel is #fuck Konami. At the end of the day, Konami still released some fantastic franchises, and one of my all-time favorites was Castlevania. So I would love to see Castlevania come back again. Now, ironically, Castlevania is attributed as being one of the forefathers of the modern platforming genre. I mean, you hear the terms Metroidvania quite a bit to describe that model of themed platformer, where there's, pickups and, puzzles and combat and that kind of stuff. But what I'd love to see Castlevania do, because I don't think they necessarily need to exist in that space anymore because there's a lot of competition. What I'd love to see them do is actually become a game that really doubles down on the themes of extremely hard sort of, fantasy monster style bosses that sort of propel a narrative forward. And what I'd like to see is a game that's a bit more akin to what I'd imagine a Uncharted mixed with a Monster Hunter would kind of be. So you could have all of the sort of, aerial adventures in 3D space that, follow a strong narrative with really good character development that you see in like an Uncharted game. But, with the sort of action set pieces as well to make it, a very action-packed Van Helsing kind of, tale. But by the same token, you actually want them coming up against super dangerous enemies that require a lot of preparation and a lot of thought and a lot of mechanic when it comes to those boss battles. Like, you want the final confrontation with Dracula to be a real shit fight, and you don't want it to be over quickly. You actually want it to traverse over the course of, an entire level in different areas where you have to chase the dude, or maybe you're getting chased by him, and you have to keep engaging him to actually try and finish him off. And that could be true of a lot of the other beasts that you play in that game as well. So, the boss fights in the Castlevania games was definitely one of the highlights, and I'd like to see that become a big feature of the levels, and you can almost design the levels around those boss fights in a way. So,
it's making me think of Bloodborne as well. That's making me think of.
Yeah, I imagine it would be quite similar to some of the Souls type games, but I'd imagine it being more narrative driven and more platformy than those. In the 3D space. That would be a whole bunch of fun. I'd love to see Castlevania return. And the last game on my list, which is there purely by the virtue of the fact that it was one of my funnest memories of drinking while gaming ever, and that was actually Syndicate. So I don't know if you guys remember the old Syndicate games. My personal favorite
I never played Syndicate, no.
Me either.
There's some good ones. Syndicate Wars is my personal favorite, which I can't remember which platform it was on. I think it was an old Xbox game. I could be wrong. But it was Syndicate Wars in particular was a top-down multiplayer action shooter with a cyberpunk sort of theme. But the Syndicate game that was released as a follow-up a few years later, I think it might have been in about 2012, was actually a first-person shooter with puzzle elements. So it was a bit different in nature. But generally speaking, it's a kind of cyberpunky style game that involves hopefully multiplayer sort of action and shooter stuff with a bit of puzzle focus. What I'd like to see this game become is kind of like I'd like to see Syndicate become almost similar to the Division meets like Divinity Original Sin. Like, I would love to see that kind of build. So it's a co-op shooter that's done in a very sort of organic way. So, it functions very smoothly as a shooter, but it has the character building and sort of story development elements that allow you to customize characters and interact with your environment a whole deal, build skills and abilities and have all of that sort of customization that you see in a game like a Divinity Original Sin as well. What I'm describing essentially is exactly what I hope that Cyberpunk 2077 is. So if that game is anything like that, this is kind of what I'm getting at. But as a Syndicate franchise game, I would love that. So that's kind of my hope for that. So there you go. That's my 3.
Yeah, I think if I were just to play one of those 3 games, I'd go for the Syndicate game. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, that sounds good fun. Mm-hmm. All right, Jam, give us your dead games you'd like to bring back.
Dead games. Aw, sad when they're called that. So my first one, very dear to my heart, played the crap out of these games on PlayStation 2 back in the day, and it's the Jak and Daxter series by Naughty Dog, and just the characters, adorable. So it's really interesting because a lot of people talk about, Naughty Dog growing up in their choice of different game franchises over the years, and they have. I love everything they've worked on. But the Jak and Daxter series is like this little microcosm of the same thing too. Because in the first game, Jak didn't talk and he was young and he had Daxter, the weasel thing, I can't even remember what he was called, on his shoulder, basically talking for him by being pushy. And they would go through the levels and it would be spinning and kicking and, it was kind of non-violent. It was only the animals that got booped and then they vanished. And it was just so cute and simple. And then the second game Jack's grown up a bit. Suddenly he's got a voice and there's a bit of time travel involved. And they're in a world where there's some technology and there's guns. And then the third game is like a wasteland. And the settings keep changing. And I guess I grew up with the 3 different games as I played them. So it was this really fun progression. The main characters are hilarious. Oh gosh, all the NPCs are hilarious. It had really good writing, really fun action platformer type things. There were lots of challenging, like puzzly type elements or racing and all sorts of things. It was just this great mix of really fun stuff with a wonderful story that I loved. And then it kind of dropped off. There was this Jak X racing game that was just mostly racing and not much else since. So I would love to see an addition to the franchise. But that being said, if that pulled Naughty Dog away from their other project, I'd be really sad. So this is kind of, I don't think I'm willing to, have them give up on all of their other amazing stuff.
Well, if anything is true to what they've done recently, they could put Jak and Daxter inside another game.
Well, and the Crash stuff's happening with Crash Bandicoot now, so I'm like, maybe. Ratchet and Clank's kept going strong. Loved those games too. And what I was thinking for Jak and Daxter is if there was this another time or technology shift, because the mechanics of the storyline can support that, but then I worried that it might get too similar to Ratchet and Clank, which is all spacey robots and technology and amazingness.
It's funny you mentioned that game, because I always got the two of them confused. Like, I don't know the difference between either, because I've never played either. So.
They're both great. They're both great. They've got such good characters.
Ratchet and Clank's free this month on PlayStation Plus 2, which is very cool.
Captain Quark is bonkers. So that's my first one that's very, very special to me. My second is a game that I didn't play nearly as much of as I wanted to back in the day, because I don't, from memory, I can't remember how old I was. I didn't own the copy myself. I can't even remember where I played it. But it was someone else's computer, someone else's game, and I'd be able to sort of rock up now and then and have a go at it. And that's Black and White. I'm not even sure if I played Black and White or Black and White 2. So this is a game from Peter Molyneux, or 2 games, that it was like a world with these little villages, people spotted around, and you were God. You had this hand, and you would use that hand to interact and do things. You would help them build or fight off things. You could also mess up and smush things or people or throw things. And how you behaved, the intelligence behind these civilization people things would interpret what you did differently, and your goal was to get them to worship you, because that gave you more power. It let you cast miracles. A mechanism to sort of help influence that is you got granted a creature that represented you, like an avatar.
Oh, I vaguely remember this.
And you would plop it down in the world, and at the start you'd be neutral and it would be neutral, and forgive me if I'm remembering this incorrectly because it's been so long. Your actions and the creature's actions would be interpreted by the people, and you would sort of get more good or more evil, depending on what you did. And if you got more evil, your avatar started looking nastier. Your hand started looking nastier. The people and the villages that worshipped you started looking a little more iffy. If the things you did were good and the people worshipped you because they thought you were helpful and wise, everything would get a little more, radiant and lovely and glowy good. So it was just this God game that the game, like everything going on in the background, was just interpreting all the little actions that you did. And it felt really organic because there weren't, from memory, like excessive menus or anything. You would gesture with your hand and you would just use your hand to do bits and pieces. But one thing I remember is I had a cow and it was flinging poo at the people and they got very upset. So it was bizarre and weird, and there's so much I don't remember, but I can see it coming back in a spectacular way. I would love to see that sort of game.
Did you play Goddess? Did you hear of Goddess?
No, so that was going to be my caveat.
Yeah.
That Goddess was released much more recently from Peter Molyneux as well, and it had a terrible reception, and I never picked it up.
Yeah,
it was awful.
Goddess seemed a lot more like a Civilization-style game, though, like the scale of it. So.
But it had that sort of similar premise to Black and White, where the idea was that you were the god of the world and there were little people that would react to you. So I could see Black and White in it, but it just wasn't a good game.
Didn't they have like a huge lead up sort of
Yeah, because
rubbish thing.
Oh, yeah.
he had that.
It was like a box.
That app called Curiosity, where it was just like a cube. Yeah, and everyone in the world could tap on it, and then the person who got to the middle of the cube, they said that the prize would change their life, and then the prize ended up being that the winner became like a creative developer on Goddess.
On the game,
and was supposed to be like the one god of Goddess and could like make decisions that affected the game. But it was just all talk and no substance, which was unfortunately Molyneux's style. So.
Absolutely. It happened to Fable and
Congratulations, you're in charge of this game that no one gives a shit about.
Without being nasty, not involving Peter Molyneux, I would love to see a game like Black and White reborn with some really interesting multiplayer facets. Imagine if you and a couple of friends could try and influence the same open world to get more people to worship you, or to get your evil god pushing your minions who worship you out to spread your religion, or like it would just be nuts. It would be fun, and I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And I think there'd be a pretty big fandom out there keen for that, because it had quite a few people playing it back in the day who loved it. But the last one was 8 years ago? More? 12. We don't count Goddess.
No, we don't. We don't speak of Goddess.
No. So that was my number 2. My number 3 I am not going to talk about because I was delighted to find that it's on Christian's list. Yay! Instead, honorary mention, I asked Ollie what he would say for this topic. And he said, and I should have known, Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
I don't know how or why. Well, I know why he loves it. He loves those games. And there hasn't been anything much since, 2004 apparently?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I remember when we did our game mashup topic, Ollie going on about Vampire the Masquerade and mashing that into other games.
I can't remember what he mashed it with, though. I'm going to have to look that up.
No. Yeah. If any listeners are keen on Ollie's thoughts, they can go back and listen to that.
Yeah. He adores those games so much. We definitely have an episode where he speaks about it at length. So that was his choice.
Nice.
And that's me.
That leaves us with my choices.
Yeah.
So one of them is the same as Jam's, which I'll save to the end. So I'm going to start with Turok is my game that I'd like to bring back from the dead.
That is a blast from the past, man.
It is a blast from the past. So if anyone who doesn't know, Turok is a character, I think he started in the comics, and he's like a Native American dinosaur hunter in like a sci-fi setting. And it's very 90s, it's very cheesy. But as a kid, I loved playing Turok 2 on N64. It was awesome fun. Played it multiplayer too. And it's just like a first-person shooter game, but has weird sci-fi dinosaurs and crazy inventive weapons. Like I always remember there's a weapon called the Cerebral Borer, and it like shot out like a worm that would dig into the enemy's head, or was it like a disc? It was something that just jammed into the enemy's head and like bored into their skull and exploded, and it was awesome. As like a little 10-year-old maybe, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Super gross.
So my idea for bringing Turok back is to have Crytek develop it and have it be kind of Far Cry-ish. We're going open world, we're sticking to first person, and we're putting crazy sci-fi dinosaurs out in the open world for you to run into each other and fight like the animals in Far Cry. And it's going to have a pretty simple story because it's not what really drives the game. It's just going to be over the top. It's going to be cheesy, and it's going to be explosive and with weird weapons and crazy dinosaurs.
That sounds pretty cool.
Did you play Far Cry Blood Dragon?
I did play Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm thinking
my brain just was shouting that at me as you
there's
described
definitely similarities there. That was like super 80s. But I really like Turok in that kind of that era of 90s edginess with like Todd McFarlane stuff like Spawn and when things took themselves a little too seriously. I want it to be like that.
Awesome.
And then my second game is going back a little further than Turok, and it's Hexen. So Hexen was another first-person game. The original was made on the Build engine, which was like Duke Nukem 3D, if anyone remembers playing that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like those old Duke Nukem 3D or Doom style games, but it was like arcane, kind of demon and spell focused. And you could choose cleric, mage, or fighter. And then it had some puzzle elements to it, and you cast spells. And I don't remember it in too much detail, but I remember it being pretty fun. And to bring it back, I would want Machine Games to work on it, who have made the new Wolfensteins and Doom. So keeping it in the family. So they handled the sort of remakes of those old games, and they're going to handle Hexen too. And it's going to have that same like high octane action that the new Doom game had. But I want to make it 3-player co-op. So I want there to be the mage, the fighter, and the cleric all playing together, and kind of like what you were saying, Luke, with like bouncing moves off each other. Mm-hmm. I want them to be doing that. So you're comboing attacks off your party members, and the mage is casting a spell, and then they're charging up the warrior's weapon, and then that's doing crazy explosive things. Yeah, and it'd be good fun. And Hexen also had a hub world, so I want to keep that. So hub world, and you go through to like different themed areas, like a giant castle or like a desert area or a forest area, that sort of thing. And kind of Metroidvania-ish, where there are puzzles to solve in the different areas, and then you can come back later and open up new doors and fight new monsters and get new spells. And yeah, that's what I want.
That sounds pretty awesome.
I want new Hexen.
Yeah.
And then my final game is Tenchu, Shadow Assassin, which I played on PlayStation 1, I think it was. Yeah, PlayStation 1. And it's like a third-person stealth action ninja game where you would be given kind of like a predecessor to Assassin's Creed, where you'd be given like an assassin target and you had to sneak across rooftops and like drop poison into their food or just jump down. And it's kind of Hitman-y, kind of Assassin's Creed-y. But yeah, that was an awesome, fun game. And the way I'd bring it back from the dead would be I'd want Crystal Dynamics to make it, the team from Square Enix who make the new Tomb Raider games.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I think they've got the kind of third-person explory chops, a little bit of crafting, some bow shooting, that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I want them to bring it back.
I love that game. I just remember running around going, Ricky Maru!
Yeah.
It had the games that I played had two main characters. There was, I think, Yame was
I
the
can't
chick.
remember the names, but I just remember it was the guy and the girl.
And Ricky Maru, he had the little blonde spikes. It was great. And I think the second one introduced some couch co-op. My sister and I played that to death. We would be going through the levels. That. Oh, so good. We'd be going through the levels trying to figure out how we could 100% stealth kill everything. And we weren't quite as skilled back then, but it was just fantastic. I would love to see some online multiplayer junk going on, where I think there was an online multiplayer where you had to like go against other teams of ninjas, because I remember us getting
the PS2
ganked.
one. Yeah.
Yes, the PS2 one.
Yeah.
Oh, it was such good fun. And it felt authentic. The way they designed the levels was really good. They'd have the cicada noises in the background if it was daytime in one of the warmer levels. Like it was awesome. It had a storyline to it that I don't remember much, but it was cool.
I remember it.
It was just fun ninja stuff. I
definitely also remember like the aesthetic of the game, and like you're saying, like the atmosphere was really cool, and I'd really want to keep that. Like I was almost thinking of some of the vibes I got from Breath of the Wild, actually, which might be a strange thing, but like the kind of outdoorsy peacefulness contrasted with ninja assassin stuff. Yeah. I think kind of this sort of Japanese peaceful environment, but then sudden violence. Yeah. I think is really cool.
They did that really well. It had a great level design and aesthetics that just really suited the gameplay. I would just love to see more Tenchu. Good Tenchu.
I'm slightly hopeful that Tenchu will come back at some point. Or if it doesn't, do you remember Sucker Punch's new game announcement, Ghost of Tsushima?
Oh, no.
Yeah, so like Sucker Punch's new game is like a medieval Japanese, like feudal Japanese action game where you play as like a ghost of a samurai or a ghost of a ronin or something. They haven't shown any gameplay or anything, but when I saw the trailer, I was kind of like, ooh, I'm getting a little bit of Tenchu from here.
I'm going to have to look this up.
Yeah, check it out after we finish recording because it looks. I was getting Tenchu vibes from it, so hopefully it scratches that itch.
Brilliant.
I honestly don't remember that.
I think it was PSX. They announced it. Ghost of Tsushima.
Okay.
Because it focuses on the Mongol invasion of Japan. Yeah, which is cool. And just before we wrap up, I wanted to say if any of you listeners out there have a game franchise that you'd like to see brought back from the dead, please email us, mail@partyloaded.com, or tweet at us @partyloadedshow. And if we like your idea, we may just mention it next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I had some honourable mentions, but I'm not going to go through them.
That's cool.
There were another handful that just didn't make the cut. They just didn't make it.
Well, as far as the design your game sort of kind of pitch format goes, I'm sure we'll do this again at some point in the future. For anyone who does want to listen back to the original episode where we sort of had these ideas, it was episode 92, going back last year around August. So that was our mega mashup game pitches. So, and the one that Ollie mashed up Vampire the Masquerade with was GTA 5. So,
That's right.
Yeah. I remember him talking about GTA Online, I think he wanted to have like the different vampire houses being like online clubs or something.
Yep. Absolutely. Just dwelling in that dark world. So, yeah. Man, they all sound super cool. I want to play all of these games.
Yeah. They do all sound very cool.
They do. But we've got plenty of things to look forward to for the rest of this year in their stead instead. So, give me more Battletoads. Anyway, so yes, we'd love to hear about other people's suggestions. But yeah, if you want to get in touch with us besides the email, where else can they go, Christian?
We have our Facebook page, Party Loaded, and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/channelendgame. And yeah, that email address again, in case you didn't catch it, was mail@partyloaded.com, and the Twitter handle is @partyloadedshow. So you can hit us up on any of those thingy-me-jiggies.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And if you got a super cool idea, we'll probably mention it on a future episode in the not-too-distant future. So, for sure. Cool. Well, yeah. Lots of dormant franchises to revive. If it wasn't for the fact that we're still playing through a whole bunch of still very, very living ones. But I don't know, Jam, you really have gotten me intrigued on the Division. Not that I'd say that was a dormant franchise, but kind of has been a little dormant for the last year.
Start your download before you go to sleep, and that way, if you feel like playing, it's ready to play.
Oh God, which
and it will probably look amazing on your new computer.
Which installer do I need for this one again? It wasn't Origin, was it?
I purchased through Steam.
Oh, did you? Oh God, I don't think I did.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm gonna have to look this up.
Well, Ubisoft, man, just Ubisoft. You play something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I don't know. I'll set myself the goal of finishing Rise of the Tomb Raider this week first because that's on my list. So I really want to get through that because there's a bit of a pile of shame to be addressed before A Way Out and Sea of Thieves arrives later this month. So
oh my God, so many games.
A couple of things to get through. Yeah,
great games.
So anything besides Division on the list for you this week, Jam? Or you just
Sims,
Simsing?
no doubt.
Yep.
And yeah, all the other usuals. I got to get stuck back into Monster Hunter. I did a little over the weekend just to cash up and gear up a bit. I need to investigate the next monster, Doovie.
Mm-hmm.
I love that game. I don't know. I don't pick it up for 2 weeks, and it just feels like I was playing yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just great.
That kind of game.
Yep.
What about you, Christian? What's on this week?
Well, as I mentioned last week, I'm still trying to get into Yakuza, but I need to get my hands on Yakuza 0, which I may need to talk to you about again. We need to,
Sit
at a time
right
I can
here
grab it
waiting
off
for you, buddy.
Yeah.
I can organise a drop point perhaps later in the week for you. We'll talk about that off air. But more than happy to set you up because I just want to share the love of that game with someone else. There's so much good stuff to talk about. So, yeah.
But other than that, I'll just be chipping away at Monster Hunter and playing a bit more Hearthstone. Yeah.
Nice. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's put the brakes on there and get to some gaming. So thanks everybody once again for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed our rambling about all of the games that we would love to see back from an age long past. But next week, hopefully we'll talk about some more of the new latest and greatest. And until then, next 7 days, we'll catch you soon. Good night.
Bye.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.